The movie that terrified the world in 1979 wasn't untouchable. Could something rip it off and somehow do it better? In the 1980s, studios copied, twisted, and escalated the Alien formula in ways you've never imagined. Some were chaotic nightmares, others brutal survival machines. But all dared to outshine a legend. Tonight, you'll see 10 blatant ripoffs that didn't just copy Alien, they reinvented it. And one of them will make you question everything you thought about the original. Galaxy of Terror, 1981. Roger Corman's Galaxy of Terror isn't subtle. It's chaos wrapped in sci-fi decor. On the surface, it's a standard deep space horror. Crew lands on a mysterious planet, unexplained deaths begin, and a monstrous entity lurks in the shadows. But the film distinguishes itself with psychological terror. I'm turning each crew member's personal fears into grotesque, personalized nightmares. One dies consumed by a giant insect, another crushed by hallucinations that feel almost real. Its low budget works in its favor. The limitations force creativity, making each death more shocking, more visceral. Unlike Alien, which relies on suspenseful pacing and creeping dread, Galaxy of Terror never lets you breathe. The terror is constant, unrelenting, and disturbingly imaginative. By leaning into absurdity and surreal horror, it often scares more efficiently than the meticulously orchestrated tension of the original. For audiences seeking unpredictability and sheer nightmare fuel, this is a case where imitation inadvertently surpasses inspiration, leaving a lingering sense of dread long after the screen goes black. A Forbidden World, 1982. Forbidden World takes the familiar beats of Alien and turns them into a relentless sprint through genetic horror. In this story, a laboratory creates a rapidly evolving alien organism, and the crew must contain it before disaster strikes. Unlike Alien, which relies on slow-burn suspense, Forbidden World escalates immediately. The creature multiplies, mutates, and kills faster than anything seen in the original. Every encounter carries instant consequences: limbs torn, bodies consumed, minds shattered, leaving no time for the audience to breathe or predict what will happen next. The human characters are constantly reacting, trapped in a race against a creature that evolves with terrifying speed, making tension nearly unceasing. Its visual effects are campy by modern standards, but that rawness adds an unpredictable charm that enhances the horror rather than diminishing it. Every corner, every darkened corridor carries the potential for the next shocking death, forcing viewers to remain on high alert. By trading atmospheric buildup for chaotic intensity, the film transforms a well-known formula into an adrenaline-fueled, high-stakes experience. The pacing ensures there is never a dull moment, and the creature's escalating threat keeps suspense constantly in motion. For viewers seeking pure, unrelenting alien horror, Forbidden World demonstrates how audacity, speed, and unpredictability can outperform meticulous suspense. It proves that imitation, when combined with escalation and kinetic energy, can create a wild, unforgettable cinematic ride that outpaces the careful tension of the original. A Creature, 1985. Creature is a prime example of turning Alien's formula into an immediate, high-intensity thrill ride. The premise is familiar. A crew explores a remote station and encounters a deadly extraterrestrial being. But director Fred Decker strips away slow-burn suspense in favor of relentless confrontations, making every moment feel urgent and dangerous. The alien itself is vicious and unpredictable, and its design strikes a balance between homage and menace, keeping viewers unsettled. The film's confined setting magnifies tension, with narrow corridors and isolated rooms, transforming ordinary exploration into life-or-death situations. Unlike Alien, where dread accumulates gradually, Creature saturates the audience with continuous threats, forcing constant attention and emotional investment. Each encounter challenges both the characters and the viewer. The alien's behavior varies in unexpected ways, introducing an unpredictability that amplifies fear. Pacing is key. Action and horror intertwine seamlessly, creating a cinematic rhythm that maintains tension without pause. The film doesn't merely copy, it innovates by emphasizing kinetic horror, turning familiar beats into a pulse-pounding experience. By merging aggressive action with survival horror, Creature proves that a blatant ripoff can evolve into something distinct. It transforms imitation into innovation, demonstrating that escalating intensity, immediate danger, and unpredictable monster behavior can make a derivative story feel fresh, terrifying, and impossible to ignore. For audiences craving 80s alien horror in overdrive, and Creature delivers relentless engagement from start to finish, proving that speed and unpredictability can rival carefully crafted suspense. Contamination, 1980. Italian exploitation cinema collided with sci-fi horror in Contamination, producing a film that is unapologetically over the top from the very first frame. The story begins with mysterious glowing space eggs landing on Earth, immediately unleashing chaos and grotesque transformations. Bodies mutate in grotesque, almost surreal ways, sometimes exploding violently, other times twisting into unrecognizable forms. And the camera lingers on each horrifying detail, refusing to let the viewer look away. While Contamination borrows the core premise of Alien, a small group of humans isolated and threatened by an alien organism, it escalates every element to extreme levels. There is no slow build here. Terror is immediate, aggressive, and relentless. The film revels in its own absurd imagination, delivering sequences that are as shocking as they are mesmerizing. This audacious approach keeps viewers constantly off balance, never allowing them to predict what will happen next. In comparison, Alien relies on calculated suspense, letting dread accumulate gradually. Contamination flips this approach, substituting measured tension with relentless spectacle. Its raw, unpolished style amplifies fear, turning every scene into a high-octane horror moment. The combination of grotesque imagery, unrestrained creativity, and breakneck pacing gives the film an unforgettable intensity. By leaning into chaos, unpredictability, and sheer audacity, our Contamination demonstrates how a blatant ripoff can outperform its source material, delivering shock value and visual horror that the carefully controlled suspense of the original simply cannot match. For viewers seeking an 80s horror experience that is wild, audacious, and unrelenting, Contamination is a case study in how copying can become evolution. The Hidden, 1987. The Hidden takes the DNA of Alien and transplants it into an entirely urban, contemporary setting, proving that terror does not require isolation in space. In this story, a parasitic alien jumps from host to host on Earth, spreading chaos invisibly. The horror is psychological as much as physical. Anyone could be infected, and the threat could be hiding behind a familiar face. This omnipresent danger injects paranoia into every scene, creating tension that Alien only lightly touches upon. Unlike the contained dread of a spaceship, The Hidden transforms the entire city into a potential death trap. Viewers are constantly questioning who is safe, who can be trusted, and where the alien might strike next. The pacing expertly balances high-stakes action with suspenseful moments of uncertainty, keeping audiences on edge throughout. Body horror and grotesque alien transformations punctuate the narrative, each escalating the fear factor and reinforcing the alien's deadly intelligence. Clever visual cues and sudden shocks further enhance the sense of danger, ensuring that tension never dissipates. By relocating the threat to a familiar terrestrial environment, the film intensifies psychological anxiety, making ordinary spaces, streets, apartments, cars, feel unsafe and terrifying. In doing so, The Hidden surpasses the original Alien in a unique way. It delivers a sense of omnipresent danger that is invisible, unpredictable, and deeply unsettling. It demonstrates that alien horror does not need isolation to terrify. It needs the constant implication that no one and no place is safe. A lesson in psychological horror that gives this ripoff its distinctive edge. Lifeforce, 1985. Tobe Hooper's Lifeforce is not content to merely replicate Alien. It escalates the threat to a planetary scale, turning a story of isolation into an apocalyptic nightmare. Instead of a single, xenomorphic creature confined to a ship, Earth itself faces a full-scale invasion of energy-sucking extraterrestrials. From the very beginning, the tension is amplified by the sheer magnitude of the threat. Humans float helplessly, cities are set aflame, and psychic domination spreads fear and chaos across the globe. Hooper's film combines cosmic horror with visceral spectacle, creating sequences of visual and emotional overload. While Alien terrifies through gradual confinement and suspense, Lifeforce terrifies through overwhelming scale and unpredictability. The aliens' motives are inscrutable, their powers absolute, and the consequences catastrophic, leaving audiences on edge at every moment. The pacing is relentless, blending intense horror sequences with apocalyptic visuals that push the boundaries of 1980s cinematic imagination. Unlike most ripoffs, which often feel derivative, Lifeforce reinvents the concept, on escalating the stakes and turning familiar alien tropes into something surreal, grandiose, and shocking. Its audacity lies in refusing to remain grounded, embracing spectacle and horror simultaneously. For viewers seeking a more chaotic, visually striking, and adrenaline-fueled experience, Lifeforce surpasses the measured dread of Alien. By taking a rip-off formula and expanding it to global, psychological, and visual extremes, Hooper proves that audacious imitation can achieve brilliance, leaving a lasting impression that is as unnerving as it is unforgettable. Leviathan, 1989. Leviathan brings Alien's claustrophobic terror to the crushing depths of the ocean, turning isolation into an environmental nightmare. A deep-sea mining crew discovers a mysterious creature lurking beneath their station, and the tension escalates immediately as the underwater setting becomes as threatening as the alien itself. The crushing pressure, total darkness, and lack of mobility heighten every encounter, ensuring that danger feels constant, unavoidable, and intimate. The creature is relentless and aggressive, but the environment amplifies the horror. Flooding compartments, structural collapses, and the ever-present risk of decompression make survival nearly impossible. Unlike Alien, which relies on a slow-building atmosphere of suspense, Leviathan maintains continuous peril, keeping viewers on edge with a steady barrage of threats. The underwater cinematography, practical effects, and creative creature design immerse the audience fully, reinforcing the claustrophobia and tension. Each death is immediate and shocking, while the combination of environmental danger and alien menace creates layered suspense. Leviathan doesn't just mimic Alien, it innovates by merging survival horror with sci-fi creature terror in an entirely new context. The film's relentless pacing and oppressive setting make it feel unescapable, transforming the familiar alien horror formula into a visceral, edge-of-your-seat experience. For fans craving a fresh spin on the genre, Leviathan demonstrates how a derivative story can surpass its predecessor in intensity and immersion, proving that location and environmental creativity can elevate even a blatant ripoff into a memorable, unforgettable spectacle. Deep Star 6, 1989. Deep Star 6 emerged in the same year as Leviathan, diving even deeper into underwater terror while injecting relentless action that keeps the audience on edge from the very first frame. A newly deployed subaquatic team is sent to inspect a remote underwater station, unaware that their arrival will awaken a monstrous, preternatural creature. The terror begins instantly. There's no slow burn here. The alien strikes with speed and brutality, tearing through the crew before anyone has a chance to regroup. Director Sean S. Cunningham masterfully exploits the oppressive environment, the station's cramped corridors, the pressure-filled habitats, and the infinite darkness of the ocean combine to amplify claustrophobia. Every sound, every shadow becomes a potential threat, and the audience is forced to experience the suffocating tension alongside the crew. Characters face immediate, shocking consequences. Limbs are torn, minds are shattered, and the creature's intelligence adds a terrifying unpredictability. Unlike Alien, which balances suspense with brief respites, Deep Star 6 refuses to relent, pushing viewers into a constant state of anxiety. Its raw, kinetic energy transforms what could have been a derivative imitation into an immersive survival spectacle. The underwater setting adds unique dangers. Pressure, flooding, and environmental instability magnify the stakes in ways outer space could not. Even with a familiar formula, the film reinvents alien horror by combining relentless threat, unpredictable monster behavior, and environmental terror. For some viewers, this unabashed intensity and unyielding pace make Deep Star 6 a more immediate, adrenaline-charged experience than Alien, proving that sometimes a ripoff can outshine the original by simply refusing to let the audience breathe. The Thing, 1982. John Carpenter's The Thing isn't merely a ripoff of Alien. It's a complete transformation, a psychological horror masterpiece that elevates the alien threat to a new level of terror. Set in the isolated, frozen expanse of Antarctica, the story begins with a small research team discovering an alien life form capable of assimilating any living organism. Immediately, paranoia takes hold. Unlike Alien, where the monster is external and identifiable, here the threat is invisible, internal, and insidiously human. Every glance, every casual gesture becomes a potential betrayal. Carpenter's meticulous pacing alternates between quiet dread and explosive, grotesque horror, ensuring the audience is constantly unsettled. The practical effects are disturbingly tangible. Humans morph into alien forms with jaw-dropping realism, creating shock and disbelief. This body horror is amplified by Carpenter's atmospheric direction. Claustrophobic interiors, freezing landscapes, and an oppressive sense of isolation intensify every moment of tension. Trust collapses, alliances fracture, and the viewer feels the uncertainty and fear that grips the characters. The terror isn't just in what the creature can do, it's in the unpredictability of who it could be, including someone the audience has already begun to sympathize with. By fusing psychological tension, extreme gore, and moral uncertainty, The Thing surpasses the original's slow-building suspense. It transforms a familiar premise into a paranoia-fueled nightmare, proving that alien horror can be more than physical danger. It can attack the very mind. In doing so, Carpenter doesn't just imitate Alien, he intensifies it, creating a work where the horror lingers long after the final frame and redefining what a sci-fi monster movie can achieve. Aliens, 1986. James Cameron's Aliens is more than a sequel, it's a radical reinvention of the alien horror template. Where Ridley Scott's Alien relied on creeping dread and isolation, Cameron amplifies tension through relentless action, multiple waves of xenomorphs, and high-stakes combat that never allows the audience a moment of respite. The film opens with Ellen Ripley, returning from her traumatic encounter with the original xenomorph, confronting a world that dismisses her warnings. So her character has evolved. Ripley is no longer a passive survivor, but a battle-hardened protagonist, combining intelligence, determination, and maternal protectiveness into every decision. The stakes are higher. Dozens of colonists face annihilation. The xenomorphs are faster, deadlier, and more numerous. And the environments, from claustrophobic corridors to industrial complexes, add layers of danger. Cameron's meticulous attention to pacing ensures the suspense never falters, balancing chaotic firefights with tense build-ups to creature encounters. Emotional depth interweaves with action. Ripley's fierce determination to protect Newt adds personal stakes that heighten the audience's investment. The xenomorphs themselves are upgraded threats, exhibiting cunning and aggression that force constant adaptation by both the characters and viewers. By merging horror, action, and psychological intensity, Aliens respects the original while transforming the formula into something more immediate and thrilling. For many, Cameron's vision doesn't simply match Alien, it surpasses it, proving that a ripoff can achieve legendary status when ambition, storytelling, and visceral suspense combine. Every encounter, every chase, every brutal confrontation is designed to leave viewers breathless, cementing Aliens as a definitive evolution of its predecessor and a high-water mark of 1980s sci-fi horror. From subterranean labs to deep-sea nightmares, these 80s ripoffs didn't just copy, they escalated, innovated, and terrified in ways the originals never dared. Each film proves that audacity, intensity, and sheer unpredictability can turn imitation into legend. If you thought Alien was the ultimate alien experience, these movies challenge that and leave you breathless long after the credits roll.